These days, it can feel like every major game company and their mothers want to get in on releasing their own launcher. And of course, that's because from a business perspective, these companies want to avoid having to pay platform fees to other companies like Steam, which is obviously the most popular PC digital game storefront for this particular side of gaming. And Bethesda is among those who released their own launcher. There's the Bethesda.net launcher that released back in 2016, and it's never proven to have much fanfare. People don't generally like that so many of Bethesda games as of late have been strictly reserved to launch on that platform. Bethesda trying to turn their launcher into a thing, but they didn't quite put the effort in to make this launcher as feature complete and as technically sound as Steam. And so people have kind of been driven away by this, and it's proven to be more of a detrimental thing for Bethesda and their games. And finally, it would seem like Bethesda agrees because they made the announcement just yesterday on February 22nd, 2022, that the sun is setting for Bethesda.net launcher and everything will be migrated to Steam. Hallelujah, I am surprised it took this long for this to happen. They said, we're saying goodbye to the Bethesda.net launcher this year. Starting in early April, you'll be able to migrate your games and wallet to your Steam account. For details on what this process will look like, read on. So let me scroll down, kind of go through the important bits so that, you know, if you've used the Bethesda launcher or bought a game there, how this is going to work. You're not going to lose your games according to Bethesda. You can see right here, the first thing they emphasize is that all of your games are safe. Starting in early April, you'll be able to migrate your games and wallet to your Steam account. Many games will also have their saves migrated, with a few requiring some manual transfers. So that's good to know. That was definitely one of the most important things that needed to be carried over, the progression that people have made in all of these Bethesda games. Glad to hear that won't be too much of a hassle. Now, while the transfer migration process will be available in April, it won't be until May that Bethesda launcher will be shut down completely. Until May, you'll be able to access and play your games on the Bethesda launcher, but we suggest that you start the migration process as soon as it's available. Basically, when it goes live in April, just go for it. There's no reason not to if you have games on the Bethesda launcher. And if you're currently playing games through the Bethesda launcher, after May, you will not be able to access those games or launch those games via Bethesda launcher. You can only do that through Steam. So just keep that in mind and just do the transfer as soon as you can. As outlined here in the FAQ section, what will happen to the Bethesda.net launcher? Starting in May, you'll no longer be able to play and access your games within the Bethesda.net launcher. That doesn't mean you lose your purchase. It just means that the purchase won't work through this launcher that is defunct. You're going to have to go through that migration process so that Steam recognizes you bought these games, and then that can be the catalyst for your future Bethesda game launching. Many of our games and services will still rely on you having a Bethesda.net account. The account is used for things like Fallout 76, among other things. That's still going to be live. The launcher itself, though, is no longer something they're pursuing. They emphasize here in the FAQ section, you will not lose access to your library on Bethesda.net and may only the ability to play them on the launcher. So the purchases you made will all still be kept track. I imagine this is going to be indefinite for however long it takes, but just in case, just do the migration. Don't procrastinate on this. In case sometime years down the line there comes a point where they dial down the whole Bethesda launcher stuff so much that maybe you might lose those purchases. They then detail the save migration process, saying that we will provide instructions on how to migrate your game progression and saves onto your Steam account where possible. Some saves will automatically transfer, however, some will require you to manually copy them onto your Steam folder. There is one exception though, one game whose progression apparently can't transfer over, and that's Wolfenstein Youngblood. We expect almost all save progress to be transferable automatically or manually, with the exception of Wolfenstein Youngblood, which currently is unable to transfer. I don't suspect people are going to miss that game all that much, so maybe this is something that not too many people will really care about. A few final details include that you cannot migrate the Bethesda launcher stuff to other launchers like Epic Games. They are strictly partnering with Steam for this. And then what about Fallout 76? Apparently there's a whole other side of things with Fallout 76, so there is a whole FAQ dedicated to that game as to how that will be affected by the shutdown of this launcher. And then finally, will friends list be merged? Well, I need to refriend friends I added on Bethesda.net. yet. They said that Bethesda.net friends list will be merged after migration. So it does seem like they've thought this process through, which is good to see. But mainly the disappearance of the Bethesda.net launcher is something that I think many people will celebrate, and you can definitely see that already if you look at social media and forums. Nibel here tweeted about this, and this has garnered a huge amount of likes, and if you scroll down through the comments, you will see that people are ultimately glad at this situation or poking fun that Bethesda launcher existed at all, given how feature incomplete it was, given how technically unsound it could be and how bad the customer support could be. And there's also, of course, the refund aspect of things. A refund policy is nowhere near as flexible as Steam's, and so Fallout 76 players who were screwed over by that game, particularly at launch, they have not been able to get refunds except for Australia, where consumer laws allowed people to force Bethesda into giving their money back. But in most regions in America and whatnot, Bethesda just didn't have to give refunds, and more often than not, they refused to do so. And that's one of the reasons that I'm glad that all of these Bethesda games are transferring over to Steam, because it means that refund policies for all Bethesda games have suddenly been bolstered because they're no longer at the Bethesda launcher. And so if a Fallout 76 type of situation happens again, there's probably going to be a lot more flexibility in being able to get your money back. And on top of that, you just got a more feature-complete launcher that tends to work 99% of the time. If you look at the PC gaming subreddit, you can see just how celebrated this move is, with this post highlighting how Bethesda is retiring their Bethesda launcher in favor of Steam, garnering over almost 50,000 upvotes. I mean, and this is just in the span of a single day. And scrolling down here, you will see that people are just not surprised entirely, but still glad to see this finally happen. Retiring as expected, but I sort of thought they would move to the Microsoft Store. I'm so glad they're moving to Steam. Yeah, that was a distinct possibility because they were purchased by Microsoft, and so, you know, there very well could have been a situation where Microsoft could have been like, all right, from here on out, you know, we own ZeniMax and Bethesda, why not release things on the Microsoft Store? But the Microsoft Store is nowhere near as fleshed out as Steam either, and they would have just stumbled upon the same situation as with the Bethesda launcher, where it hampers people's ability to buy the game and their desire to buy the game on PC more than it helps. So yeah, I agree. I'm glad that they decided to migrate to Steam. It is the best choice for both the community and customers, as well as I think on the business end things for Bethesda as well. They just stand to sell many more copies of their games because Steam is just that much more popular of a launcher and that much more preferred, and it's kind of where all of PC gaming's at currently, save for, you know, competition like Epic Games Store. And I'm not saying I discourage other companies from releasing their own launchers. It just has to be feature complete and at least match the capabilities of what Valve is offering with Steam, especially when it comes to Bethesda Game Studios game, which tend to be very moddable. Those types of games on Steam with Steam Workshop just goes hand in glove because of how well that's handled on Steam's side of things. Somebody noting how EA at one point, yeah, they came back crawling to Steam. It was the biggest proof of where the customer base is. That's what I'm saying. It's clear from how other companies have retreated from being, you know, exclusive to their own launcher that, yeah, you have to give Steam a certain fee, you know, there's royalties that have to be paid. But given how many customers you're missing out on by not releasing your game on Steam, it would seem as though it is a worthwhile payment, and that it is worth keeping games on PC as multi-platform as possible. That goes doubly true for when a company's own launcher is just that bad. And beyond the stuff that I've already talked about, remember situations like people having a hard time uninstalling Fallout 76 through the Bethesda launcher, or the Bethesda launcher launching a version of Doom Eternal that was already cracked on PC. It was already pirate ready and stuff like that. It's just the reputation surrounding Bethesda.net is not a particularly positive one. Customer support, I've heard plenty of complaints about, and again, I'll bring up refund policy. Even back in 2018, we got reviews from outlets like PC Gamer saying Bethesda's launcher seems to be designed more as a pretty interface to purchase Bethesda's games and a way of managing them. And it seemed more like a way for Bethesda to avoid having to pay a certain percentage of revenue to launchers like Steam. But it's clear now from this backpedaling that it's not been working out, that it is more worthwhile to migrate to Steam than being stubborn about this launcher that is just not working out for them. PC Gamer put it aptly back in 2018 when they released this article, when they said Bethesda has to rival Steam on modding, network infrastructure, and more. Yeah, basically be as good as Steam. Yeah, if you're going to force people into the inconvenience of having to keep track of yet another launcher and not having to use their preferred Steam launcher, then you better do something that makes the launcher stand out. But Bethesda Net Launcher only stood out in one way. It kind of sucked. So yeah, with all said and done, I'd definitely call this a very positive development, and I'm glad that Microsoft and Xbox aren't being stingy about it by keeping it exclusive to Microsoft Store and stuff like that. That they are aware that the wider PC gaming community prefers Steam and would like to see games come out at least on Steam and then other platforms. But with Bethesda games, it would seem as though for now they will be essentially Steam exclusive, and given that that is the main center of PC gaming currently, it is the most popular platform in terms of PC launchers. You know, I think it makes a whole lot of sense. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is everything you need to know about the latest developments surrounding Bethesda. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on this launcher shutting down. Are you glad, or were there some of you who are partial to this particular launcher for some reason? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.